On the surface, it seemed like just another day in November, but behind closed doors, events were unfolding that would leave a permanent scar on the community. The name Corneshia Butler would soon be etched into police reports, courtroom records, and whispered conversations among those who knew her story but could not fully comprehend it. Who was Corneshia Butler? Before headlines and charges defined her, she was a woman navigating her own life, surrounded by people who claimed to know her best. Yet, beneath those everyday moments, there were tensions no one outside her closest circle could see. What began as a private matter would soon turn into a public tragedy. On November 16th, the calm was shattered. Emergency calls, flashing lights, and swift police action marked the beginning of a case that would reveal disturbing layers of violence and unanswered questions. Evidence collected at the scene told a chilling story, but it was only part of the puzzle. Investigators quickly identified a suspect, someone who was not a stranger, but a figure intertwined with Corneshia's life. The legal process that followed drew attention not just to the charges filed, but for what it revealed about recurring patterns of domestic violence and the failures to stop them in time. Witnesses came forward, testimonies were given, and the courtroom became the stage where every detail was scrutinized. But even with a suspect in custody, the case left lingering doubts. Could this tragedy have been prevented? Did anyone around Corneshia recognize the signs before it was too late? And what does this case expose about how society handles the silent crisis of domestic abuse? If you enjoy real crime stories that uncover the truth, don't forget to subscribe. Your support helps us share real cases, spread awareness, and give a voice to those who can't speak for themselves. Before we begin, let us know in the comments, where are you watching from? And what are your thoughts as the story unfolds? Welcome to True Crime Uncovered, where we examine the cases that shake communities and expose what happened behind closed doors. Real stories, real people, real impact. Subscribe now and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss what's coming next. Corneshia Butler was an ordinary woman whose life before the tragedy provides necessary context to understanding the events that followed. She grew up in a modest household, rooted in her local community. Her upbringing shaped the relationships and choices that later became central to this case. Her family ties were strong, with relatives and close friends describing her as someone who maintained bonds both inside and outside the home. Community members often mentioned that she was recognized by many and had connections that made her visible within her surroundings. In terms of personality, Corneshia was seen as approachable and dependable. She maintained ambitions like many in her peer group, focused on building stability for herself. Her lifestyle was relatively ordinary, centered around work, maintaining friendships, and pursuing personal goals. Her education and work path reflected consistency. Records indicate that she had been engaged in jobs that kept her financially afloat, though none placed her in the public spotlight. While not publicly recognized for achievements, she played roles in her circles that were significant to those who knew her best. Her relationships and social networks included family members, close friends, and intimate partners. These connections played a direct role in the circumstances leading to her death. There are no clear public records showing whether Corneshia had prior exposure to domestic violence. However, later findings revealed that she was involved in a relationship where tensions and conflict existed. This suggests that signs of domestic abuse may have been present, even if unrecognized at the time. Those close to Corneshia describe her as living a normal life before the incident. Nothing suggested an imminent tragedy. Yet, in hindsight, there were aspects of her personal life that pointed to hidden conflict. In the days and weeks leading up to November 16th, Corneshia's life followed a pattern familiar to those around her. She resided in a neighborhood where she was known, and her movements were routine. The location was central to her relationships, including her connection to the individual later charged in her death. There were reports of conflict within this relationship. Arguments and tensions existed, though not always made public. Whether law enforcement was contacted before the fatal incident remains unclear, but sources indicated that disputes had been ongoing. Were there visible warning signs that others overlooked? Could earlier intervention from family, friends, or authorities have altered the outcome? By piecing together her timeline, it becomes evident that the tragedy was not entirely sudden. Instead, It was a climax of unresolved issues that escalated into fatal violence. On November 16th, events escalated into a deadly confrontation. The specific time of the crime was recorded in police reports, marking the moment when Corneshia's life was cut short. The incident took place in a residential setting, a location tied directly to her and the accused. The sequence of actions leading to the fatal moment involved an altercation between Corneshia and Shakyia Perkins. The suspect later charged in the case. When Corneshia was discovered, she was already in critical condition, and her life could not be saved. Law enforcement and emergency services responded quickly once alerted. The scene provided evidence, including physical signs of struggle and testimony from those who heard or witnessed parts of the event. The news of her death spread rapidly within the community. Public reaction ranged from shock to calls for accountability, as neighbors and acquaintances tried to understand how conflict within a personal relationship had turned into a fatal act. The investigation led to the identification of Shakyia Perkins as the main suspect. Perkins was not a stranger to Corneshia, but someone directly connected to her life. Their relationship had included disputes that later formed part of the prosecution's case. Background checks revealed that Perkins had a history involving domestic violence incidents. Prior records showed a pattern of conflict and aggression. This history became a significant factor in explaining how the situation escalated. Law enforcement pieced together witness statements, physical evidence, and Perkins's known history to conclude that she was responsible. She was subsequently arrested and charged. Was this incident an isolated moment of violence or part of a broader behavioral pattern? Should previous incidents have served as a red flag, preventing the tragedy from happening? Once in custody, Shakyia Perkins faced multiple charges, including domestic violence and murder. The arraignment brought the case formally into the judicial system. Courtroom events followed in sequence. Hearings introduced evidence collected at the scene, statements from witnesses, and forensic examinations. Witnesses described the relationship between Butler and Perkins, shedding light on prior conflicts. The prosecution relied on evidence of physical assault, documented injuries, and Perkins's past record to build their case. The defense strategy aimed to counter these claims, suggesting alternate interpretations of the events or minimizing intent. Eventually, the verdict included Perkins's responsibility in Corneshia's death. The court sentencing held her accountable under the law. Family members and community members reacted to the outcome, recognizing that while a legal resolution was reached, the loss itself remained irreversible. Corneshia's case did not exist in isolation. It became one example within a broader issue of domestic violence in the region. Statistics and local reports show that many individuals face similar risks, often without sufficient protection. The case highlighted systemic weaknesses, the difficulty victims face in securing protection, the limited effectiveness of restraining orders, and delays in law enforcement response. Are victims of domestic violence adequately protected by the system? How many more cases remain unseen until it is too late? The death of Corneshia Butler left a lasting impact on her family and community. Relatives were forced to confront both personal grief and public attention. Friends described the void her absence created in their lives. Media coverage documented the trial and outcome, though the case did not attract national attention. Within the community, however, it was a major point of discussion. In the aftermath, the case was cited in conversations about domestic violence awareness. It underscored the importance of recognizing warning signs and the need for better systems to protect victims before situations escalate. Despite legal closure, unanswered questions remain. Was justice fully served, or did aspects of the case remain hidden? Were there early warning signs that could have prompted action? Could additional investigation reveal deeper truths about the relationship and circumstances? Most importantly, what lessons can be drawn to prevent similar tragedies in the future? If you found this story as gripping and heartbreaking as we did, don't forget to like this video and share it with others. And if you want to hear more true crime stories that uncover the mysteries behind these tragic events, make sure to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. You won't want to miss our latest stories, updates, and discussions. Thank you for joining us on this journey to seek justice and explore the truth. Together, we can make a difference. Until next time, stay safe and stay aware.